org agility is a big topic of interest for me. It was for Andy as well. And we're going to talk about the two parts of our talk are what are those sources of value and visibility into those sources and visibility into what we'll call organizational readiness. Second part of the talk is how do you maximize those sources of value, right? And how do you minimize and account for the impediments to value and readiness? So it's a big preamble. As you could tell, we're not scripted here. Andy, when we think along the lines of that part one, which is kind of visibility into where's the value coming from, before we talk about maximizing the value, where's it coming from? How do we and how do we measure the value? How do we know what type of value and capabilities we need as an organization? What's your take on that? And maybe use your lens of an HR tech provider, if you like.
Great, yeah. So it really starts at the recruiting and onboarding phase, and it flows all the way through to powering up managers on their day-to-day activities, so that they're able to make sure they have the information to make the right decisions. And if we look at each step of those, some organizations have different requirements in these areas, but the common themes are that your employees showed up, they're ready, they've been onboarded, they're part of the culture, and using technology to ensure that the key items are taking place with them without it being a drain on the managers that are going to be managing them. And so what we do is we typically talk with our clients and work with them to get rid of the muda or the inefficient parts, and to make sure that the employee is showing up ready, they're qualified, and that the manager has what they need to succeed the day of the work, and it's each and every day of the work. And so just looking at that, if when you think of your world, Stephen, where do you see that companies have really been able to, by improving their readiness? Do you have stories or examples of areas that you've seen clients really benefit from that in the onboarding, recruitment, training?
I love the question. Frankly, in every area, every HR process area, we could talk about things like readiness for more than the time we have allotted today. But if you just want to talk about onboarding, and if you recall that first conversation we had, we talked about onboarding, and a phrase that I use when I blog about onboarding is immersive onboarding. And immersive onboarding conceptually is getting immersed. It's a multi-dimensional immersion, if you will. You're getting immersed in the job or the role, in your team, and as Andy points out a lot, in the culture of the organization. And when you're coming in as a vendor, be a consulting firm or an HR product company, that's a really important lens to have. There's this, it's the empathetic lens of understanding what the employee is going through in that first month. That employee is bombarded with signals and cues, and what you need to do to really be a high performer in that organization. So, in my experience, when organizations are very empathetic toward what the employee is going through, and if you think about it, employees that leave in the first 6 weeks, it's a costly type of disruption. So you really have to understand, the employee is going through socialization, is going through understanding what's expected of them, the job description, who are the team members, who's outside the team that's going to be a valuable resource to them. So let's not look in the confines of just an HR process and what's the end goal of that process. You got to look at it from each stakeholder's point of view. So I would stop there unless you have anything to add along the lines of HR technology considerations.
Sure. So I want to just bring some color to some of the points you made. One of them is We worked with a county recently. An employee on their first day, or even before their first day, is getting sent. An employee is getting sent a zip file, some fillable PDFs, other links to websites, different forms to fill in. And they're also getting other emails following up on this, different logins. And the employee, it's impossible for them to track what they've done, what they haven't done, where they've been, where they haven't been. And from an employer brand point of view, the employer is they haven't done a lot to make the employee's life easier, but then the keen employee, unless they're really good at managing documents and faxing or printing off forms and that, they're taking all their new energy and it's being wasted on things that just are really easy generally. Another area in around here was if you look at the training and managing training, a lot of clients have different versioning of courses, things that are time sensitive. The manager's trying to manage all of this information real time. HR is trying to help, but they don't have a single common language, a single common source of truth. And they're each doing everything they can do to make this work, where technology can be simplifying it and streamlining it and making it where all of their efforts are helping each other, not just keeping them afloat.
You know, when you use the phrase single source of truth, it definitely takes me back to my practitioner years. I spent 15 years as an HR VP in the US and in Europe. And, you know, my teams went through lots of different solutions out there during due diligence in terms of what we were going to bring in. We thought we brought in the right solutions, but I would say, at least in the first couple of, I did this 6 different times in 6 different organizations. The first 1 or 2, we were aware of what this kind of critical success factors were, and, you know, to get people using the system, but we downplayed it. We made the assumption that, well, people are just going to love it. We love it, so why won't everybody love the system? Well, the fact of the matter is, when you roll out a system and people don't see the value immediately, or it's clunky in terms of the user experience, keep in mind, I use the phrase platform attributes. An attribute of a platform is different than a feature. Platform attributes are, like you mentioned before, configurability, usability, scalability, interoperability. Those take a long time for a vendor to improve upon. Features these days can be rolled out in a few weeks. So we did focus on usability, but we didn't understand how people would get to the point where they could trust the data. If they don't trust the data in that single source of truth, they're not going to use the system. So I'll kind of close out this part by saying, I believe HCM, Human Capital Management, is not owned by the HR department. The HR department is typically only 1% of the organization, right? HCM, or maximizing people, maximizing that competitive advantage and leveraging people for competitive advantage, it's an enterprise-wide responsibility. People have it, certainly their managers have it, HR department, other departments as well. So it was only when we really took that seriously and accounted for that dynamic when we rolled out systems and we basically emphasized what's in it for you, why you can trust the data. At that point, people stop using their own spreadsheets. Because when you have people using spreadsheets and collecting their own data, you're not getting a lot of value from that investment. So I don't know if you have any other stories around that or other aspects of the value side, or we can go to how do you maximize that value? And I know you had a couple of comments on this, and I do as well.
Yeah, so when we're talking workforce readiness, it's really this is all about operations, and the HR, the whole core of the business is there to support operations. And if those managers and employees in their direct line of work are given what they need to succeed, then everyone's winning. And this readiness all comes down to giving the manager the better tools for what they need to make better decisions, and for them to the sayings, I guess, called SWAN, where they sleep well at night, where they know they're given the things to succeed, and then they can just go ahead and get the work done with their teams. And so this readiness, whether it's it starts with the onboarding, but just accounting for leaves, accounting for how to fill vacancies, dealing with making sure that they're staying compliant, and that they're able to make sure the right person's doing the right work. Anything we can do to help operations with that from a technology standpoint is huge, because there's not enough hours in the day for them to be keeping their own spreadsheets, to be keeping all of this up to date, or to be conversing back and forth with HR and off hours. So anything that's real time, single source of truth, all of this, any tools and technologies we do in this area really help our clients, and that their client is their operations, and that's the true winner.
If you don't mind, I will attempt to distill everything you just said into 3 words. It's mindset, skill set, and tool set. And if you think about those 3, mindset, skill set, tool set, certainly mindset is almost all about people. Skill set, arguably, almost all about people, and the programs that are in place to upskill and reskill, et cetera. But even toolset is largely about people leveraging those tools, right? So the tools have to be very intuitive, and they have to be aligned with what those people need to be successful in their jobs. So if we go to the notion of kind of minimizing cost, minimizing and accounting for what are the impediments to deriving the value. Some of that has to do, of course, with data and analytics, and some of it has to do with having an architecture where people really understand, what are you tracking, how is it tracked, how is productivity tracked. We need to realize, and most of us do in this call, small upticks in productivity when you have hundreds or even thousands of employees translate into big dollars. So we want to minimize disruptions to maximizing productivity. And you mentioned time to value. So, we both have a lot of customer stories, but I know when we spoke, you mentioned a couple of customers and kind of what they were doing to understand, have that visibility into costs and risks, and how they were kind of accounting for them and successfully controlling for them.
Yeah, so it's funny. We deal with things in terms of like a hierarchy, and when we lower down on the hierarchy, we need to pay the employees. We need to meet payroll. If we don't pay the employees on time, we got to do. It's all about payroll. But as soon as we get past that, it's really, we got to understand our costs, and what is it we're producing? What value are we creating as a business, and how much is it costing us? And so how does that translate to technology is a cool question. So the one thing is if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. So it's over 20 years now, we've been going to businesses, understanding what costs they need to capture, what the most efficient way for them to do it is, and then making it so their leaders, their managers are able to see this information and drive the next set of business decisions. And so, running an accurate payroll, important. Employees understanding that overtime is given out fairly. Yeah, that's absolutely important. The idea that you're tracking why you're working overtime, these are all key business drivers. And when we layer these all in together with a technology that makes it really easy for managers and employees to capture their time, the business is then really able to get those metrics needed to improve.
It gives rise to another line of discussion around the different needs of different stakeholders. There's a diverse set of stakeholders out there, and there's a diverse set of needs associated with them. Even if you just talk about overtime, I'll just pick one of those items you just mentioned. Yes, there are employees that want to maximize their overtime, do it in the right way. They want to maximize their income, and that's one of their goals. Certainly, if it's not being mandated, hopefully it's not a lot of mandated overtime, but it's discretionary overtime, and employees want to maximize that. And beyond that, they want to understand what's the career path look like. I know Workzoom has capabilities in that area as well. And these days, a lot of career paths are not as linear and predictable as they used to be. People at one point in their career, they scratch their head and they go, what else is out there for me? And so HR technology has to accommodate that sort of curiosity and need. So different stakeholders have different sets of needs. If you talk about scheduling, which I know is a big part of your product suite, you know, one set of needs is the organization. Management wants to know that they have coverage. You know, you're opening up a new retail store, you need coverage. If you're shifting business models or opening up a new line of business, a new product line, you need coverage, meaning you need people that are skilled in those areas. The employees want to take advantage of the new opportunities that are being presented to them. So that, you know, that's their needs. I guess I'll sum it up like this. Not only do you have a diverse set of stakeholders and a diverse set of needs, and hopefully the HR tech is accounting for that, but you have this balancing act that has to take place. I think you used the word perception. You know, of course, the cliche perception is reality. When we talk about equity and fairness, that's perception as much as it is factual. You can tell me, show me the data that I'm being paid fairly. If I don't perceive it, that's my reality. So there has to be this balancing act of accounting for my needs, interests, and goals along with the organization. And I need to, ideally, that's the employee experience, the perception of fairness, the perception that the organization cares about me and my needs, interests, and goals. And I have a line of sight into how my career is going to be nurtured and developed. Sorry, I needed to kind of get on a little bit of a soapbox there, Andy, but I know you have thoughts along these lines.
Yeah. So when we're talking about what value was created, there's and what did it cost? Sure, time capture is a big part of that. It can be for businesses, but just as big of that is managing objectives and employees' performance, and making sure that they're working. They know, like you mentioned, what metrics they're being evaluated on, what the company deems as successful, and balancing out with technology what the employee did, whether it's from time capture or what they're planning to do, and then circling back. This idea that you're not just the business is pointing and then reflecting, it's at the employee level and the manager level, so that you have good alignment. And then the other side of this that's really cool is through things like company surveys and other types of feedback loops, you're able to have information flow up through the business using technology very effectively. So managers have a feedback loop, the directors have a feedback loop, the organization does, and they're able to choose and formulate direction based on where the culture and the pulse of the business is. But then they're able to flow their goals throughout the business so that everyone's actions are aligned. And so doing this without technology, sure, you can do it, but it some of these things become a little unwieldy. And I'll give you an example of that is some of our clients, they'd come and they'd say, yeah, we these are things we do already. And we go, great, let's do more of it. And they go, no. This is an extreme weight on our business. And we're like, why? And there's Excel spreadsheets flowing at each employee. There's emails, a performance review, taking 4 or 5 emails back and forth, 5 different versions of a document just for one employee. HR trying to HR's chasing the data around the business. there's no top-down view, and if there is, someone's in the back room consolidating that information from spreadsheets into something for a director or a manager. So the technology is one of the key ways that these businesses are able to get feedback, tight feedback loops, and it's a real good way for them to be able to measure and understand what it's costing them to produce what the value of what they're doing.
I think you would agree with the statement that year round that's important, but when you're going through a period of change, it's 5 times more important or more. When you're going through a period of change, you need to have those feedback loops. You need to have a finger on the pulse, right? And most organizations are going through a lot of change. I read a stat a couple of days ago in terms of significant, business transformation or HR transformation, that level of change. Well, guess what? Most medium-sized organizations are going through something they would describe as a transformational initiative, and most organizations are going through that every couple of years. You're going through change, you better have a finger on the pulse. Technology, yes, as you said, you could get people to fill out surveys. Much better to use technology, much more efficient. And when you talk about somebody's job, maybe aspects of the job are changing as the business is changing. It goes back to organizational agility, goes back to visibility and readiness. All these things kind of converge.
Yeah, so you talk about change at one level, which is always happening. For many of our clients, Monday is an adventure. The key people aren't showing up. They're short staffed to begin with, and then whether it's employee turnover, there's employees on leaves. That their ability to adapt to what's happening on any given day usually has them using every bit of information at their disposal to make the best decisions. So the easier that is for them to have available, the better the decisions they're going to make. So the change, there's big change and then there's small change. And a lot of the clients we work with, it can be an adventure. And at any point in time, the product they're producing, the service they're providing cannot be sacrificed. So no matter what happens in the background, they still need to get the winning result. And then that's where powering up those key managers and the people who are in operations to succeed, it's something our clients are needing to do, and we work with them to provide the technology to do that.
Yes. That's great. I happened to work in banks when I was a practitioner, but even in banks, certainly in manufacturing and services industries, operations is the engine room. Again, it's a bit of a cliche, but operations is the engine room. So got to think about what capabilities do you have, what's needed, where are the sources of value, where's the costs, where's the risks. And that's why I think HR tech is more important than ever in this context of fluid operating environment, a little bit unpredictable operating environment internally and externally. Data is even more critical when you have uncertainty, unpredictability, and fluidity in the operating environment inside and out. Andy, in a sense, we may go down in some sort of record book here as speaking for almost 40 minutes and not mentioning artificial intelligence and AI. And I have a feeling some of the folks that tuned in are saying, are these guys going to spend 40 minutes talking without mentioning AI? So I'd like to tell you, no, we're not going to talk a lot about AI. And more broadly, we're not going to talk about all the very sophisticated innovation that is coming at us on a daily basis in our personal lives and in our business lives. And there's a couple of reasons why. You're getting it elsewhere. You don't need it from us as well. But innovation for innovation's sake, in my mind, and when Andy and I have spoken about this, innovation for innovation's sake is not getting you where you need to be. Innovation is the means to the end. It's not the end. Artificial intelligence is not the outcome. It's one of the various means to that outcome. And I know we've spoken about this in the past. Innovation also brings complexity. And a lot of what you were speaking about with your customers and clients involved simplification, not complexity, right? So I know you have a perspective on that as well.
Yeah. So many of the clients we work with, they feel overwhelmed. They feel like these projects are like from where they're at, it's a huge step to get to where they want to go. AI, feeling like there's all this technology they need to master. Normally, it's a bunch of little steps they need to do, and it's usually the simpler, the better. So when you think of AI, it helps what you're. If you've got processes that are proven, AI can help streamline them even more. It can, but the majority of our clients, they just need to do these small, easy steps, and then they're already getting to a significantly better place. But the other part of that is having an end result target fixed in your mind of what the answer is can be a bit limiting. So they once they start doing this and they involve operations and they start getting these wins, the next set of small steps seem very achievable, and it's a journey, not a destination. So this thing where innovation itself, yeah, there can be simple, innovative things that are put in your business, but bigger is not always better in this case. It's just literally getting the information in the right hands, capturing it from the right place, and being as objective as possible, not subjective. Capturing information in a timely way. So AI helps. The other thing AI can do a lot with is if you have a proven formula for finding the best candidate or the best applicant in a list of resumes, Workzoom or other solutions can use AI to help get to that right set of applicants faster. But for many of our clients, we're really talking about just streamlining, consolidating single source of truth, stop chasing the data, where get it all in one place, and getting your managers and your employees the information they need to succeed and make better decisions.
Yeah, thanks. And it's kind of highlights in my mind sometimes when I've given talks, I use a pyramid. I think you used something similar when we first spoke. It's the value pyramid, right? That bottom tier in the three-tier pyramid is the foundation. And that's all the operational transactional stuff that's going on that has to be right. Payroll has to be right. There's not a lot of tolerance for it to not be right. And it's not just payroll. Compliance, it's very binary. You're either in compliance or you're not in compliance. So that bottom level of the value pyramid is, you can call it transactional, operational, administrative excellence, right? And guess what? You don't get to the higher levels of value unless you've buttoned up around that bottom tier. The middle tier, I call it enablement, stakeholder enablement. You're enabling people managers to be better managers. You're enabling employees to be more productive. And the top level of that pyramid, once you've kind of gotten your act together in the transactional level and the enablement level, then you're at kind of planning and decision support. That's where AI can come in handy, but you have to get through those first two tiers in the value pyramid, or else your organization is going to be spinning wheels. I hate to be kind of provocative about that, but I've seen it happen. You have to incrementally go through that value pyramid. And Andy, I don't know if you had anything to add to that. There's a few questions that I wanted to pick out here from our attendees were nice enough to send us a few questions, but I know you had something similar to the value pyramid when we first spoke.
Yeah, for sure. So when we work with our clients, our pyramid's very similar, but the first one is having a single source of truth. So like having one source. So many of our clients, it's not just that they have information in multiple places. They're not sure where to go to get the piece of information they need. So they end up having to check them all. And then if it's not there, they lose confidence that they're even holding the right information. So data, centralized data, single source of truth is the first level. But then the second one is that pushing out this data to the organization so everyone's getting value from it. And then growing on that we have defined processes and activities that allow things to be repetitive and consistently done at a high quality throughout the business. And things like whether it's leaves, performance reviews, compensation adjustments, things, like just employee onboarding, having consistency, simplicity, and so getting it throughout the organization. The next level we have is that we're starting to use the information of all of this activity within the system to make better decisions. That the organization's starting to use this to be reflecting and to know based on what activities happen, they can analyze it to start making better decisions. And so that journey goes up the triangle, just like you mentioned.
Thanks. I mean, the ability to make better decisions, in my book, arguably one of the most important decisions that every organization has to make is, do we have the ability to execute? Do we have the ability to execute this new strategic initiative or even a tweak in the operational model? And ability to execute goes back to those three words I gave you before, right? Mindset, skill set, and tool set. So that's a key decision. And for those of you kind of that are still have a hunger for us to say something else about AI, I'll just tell you in 30 seconds my kind of AI and HCM framework, and you could think about it down the road, perhaps after you get the foundational level right and the middle level right. But AI, and from my point of view, very useful in terms of personalizing different aspects of the employee experience. Personalizing when you're reaching out to candidates, personalizing learning. AI is also useful in kind of understanding why am I seeing data that's telling me there's high turnover in one area of the business? Well, AI is telling me, guess what? Those people are still here. You just had a reorg. So they're being counted differently. So there's a lot of use cases, everyday use cases, edge use cases that AI can get, that AI can deliver value for your organization, but get that foundational level right first. It'll make the implementation of these really kind of innovative tools so much easier down the road. So one of the questions I'm seeing here, and both of you and I have experience with this, Andy, is, how do we know what best practices are all about, the ones that are most relevant and applicable to our business? I mean, there's so much written about HR best practice and even leveraging technology. I have a perspective on that, but I wanted to hear your point of view.
Yeah, great. So the first things first is your business. Like our clients know their business. When they buy software and or technology, if the first step of that is that their business has to be changed to fit the software, that's not an amazing starting place for them. They know their business. They generally know what they want and what they need to capture. Their big thing is the cost of doing it is too high. So it's whether it's to do performance reviews this way, it's an administrative nightmare. There's no way people would do it. It's too onerous. It's distracting them from their line of work. And yet it's also pretty important for the company to get that done so that everyone's aligned and that we're able to get the metrics and that. And so when companies are thinking about best practices, they really should be thinking about, do you want to modernize? You want to consolidate? But if there's key things that make your business unique or key driving factors, technology doesn't change that. Technology should only enhance that, right?
Absolutely. So in terms of getting take up, another question that just came in is, how do you get people to start using the product? and the platform and the suite. I mean, a business case, I don't think the average employee really cares about the high level business case. But so how do you, how do you, in a sense, tailor the why me, answering the why me question? Why should I care about this new platform and this new system you're giving me? What am I going to get out of it? How do you tailor that?
Yeah, so this is pretty intuitive, but I don't feel a lot of businesses do this. This system has, like, when you're rolling something out, it has to make the employee's world better. If you're involving an employee or manager to serve someone else's needs, and you're not making it easier for them to attain their goals or achieve their results, it's the uptake or buy-in on that is always going to be low. Like, when you're rolling out this, the employee they need to be getting their needs met. This has to help them either with their career planning, with seeing how their performance is. It has to make the manager's job easier or their ability to achieve their goals easier. But if you're just doing this to get payroll out, the quality of the data, the quality of the capture, we're not getting. They'll treat it as distracted, and it really is. Let's start off with recruitment. Recruitment is as much about promotion and advertising. You're trying to attract the best candidates. If if the candidate thinks they're just saving someone time, they're way less. If it's all about someone else, if the applicant or candidate coming in is getting enriched through the process, they're getting educated, and even self-selecting out, or them finding a better job within your ecosystem to apply for, all of this can really help. But there has to be someone, each stakeholder in this, employee, manager, even the directors, and that they all need to be getting something out of this. If it's just serving someone else's needs, the buy-in and the quality will not be there.
Right. So it's not a kind of a standard script that you're going to use to encourage people to leverage the tool that you just rolled out and that you invested in. It's a tailored value proposition around that new platform. If it's okay with you, I just want to end on something that I came up with back in my PeopleSoft days 20 years ago, and I call it the Ascension Test. And the Ascension Test basically refers to this notion of what are the most logical pathways for an organization to ascend the ranks within its industry vertical. And we touched upon all three of them. We started with organizational agility. Elevating organizational agility is clearly, as operating environments internally and externally are more and more fluid and uncertain and unpredictable, organizations that are able to be out in front and know when they have to shift technologically, operationally, or strategically, that's a very logical pathway to ascend the ranks. The second one, you would actually just touching on it, and that's be an employer of choice. An employer of choice is able to attract and retain top talent, right? Attract and retain. So there's tailoring the employer value proposition to a candidate, and making sure that you're able to predict retention risk, and you know what the retention hooks are for each person, right? And you know that when this person leaves, there's a few people that may follow that person out the door. That's the sort of visibility you need, and that affects readiness to execute. Organizational agility, employer of choice, and the third one, as I mentioned before, improving employee productivity. If you have, in round numbers, revenue per employee of 100K, and you go up 5% on that, you could do the math yourself. If you have 100 employees, it's 100 times 5,000. That's a big number. It's a lot bigger if you have 1,000 employees and you just go up 5%. So when you're thinking about bringing in new technology, think about some of the themes that we went over. If you don't mind me encouraging you to do that. Yes, the shiny objects are great, and they do kind of evoke a lot of excitement, those shiny objects. You'll get there, but get the foundation right. Get data, at the source, capture it at the source, like my friend Andy said, and really understand what are the needs, interests, and goals of each person and the role they're in, and follow that kind of perspective and orientation across the whole human capital management value chain. We appreciate the questions that came in, those that we haven't gotten to. We promise we will circle back with you. We appreciate everybody joining in. Andy, as always, great chatting with you.
Great talking with you, Steve.